One more time here. Aloha everyone. Today our peak pose is Urdhva Dhanurasana. And here's the cool thing. You don't have to do the peak pose. Regardless of whether your body feels prepared for it or not, you will feel strong. You will feel open. And so the goal isn't to do the pose. The goal is to honor your body and to let things open as they're ready, and to have your best experience. And we'll see what happens. So with that, take a quarter turn to your right and make your way onto your back. And I know we have lots of props in class today, so if you need to scoot anything out of the way, go for it. Bend the knees, place the soles of the feet to the ground, and walk them nice and wide so you can knock the knees in. Take a few pelvic tilts so that you can find a long spine, and then just relax the arms, relax the face. Close the eyes if that feels inviting. And I just spontaneously sighed, but it felt really good, so I invite you to sigh. Take a deep breath in and just let everything go. Feel the tension leaving the body. And then let the breath be smooth and natural. And start to feel how the breath interacts with the back of the body, and you can feel that gentle pressure between the body and the mat. See if you can gently breathe all the way down into the low back. And then continue breathing, continue observing the breath. I'm going to talk a little bit about our peak pose wheel or Urdhva Dhanurasana. So often we do this and it feels a little pinchy in the low back. So we're going to take a lot of time to awaken our psoas, our deep core, hip flexor. We're going to create space and integration through the whole front of the body. You're going to have a completely different experience in all of your back bends today. So this starts by some core integration. Couple more breaths here. And then we'll begin by lifting the knees open so they're not knocked in anymore. Place the hands to the hip bones and gently start to rock the pelvis forward and back. And as you rock the pelvis forward and back, notice how the spine interacts. And so the spine, or the pelvis, instead of going side to side, it's rocking forward and arching and rocking back, and the spine flattens. And try moving even slower. As you move slower, notice if your awareness expands. Make sure you're breathing. And then let your pelvic tilts get smaller and smaller. You can keep the pelvis heavy. These are just really tiny movements. So the sacrum continues to rest on the mat, and you just rock the sits bones forward and then rock back. And as your tilts get smaller and smaller, notice how you can find a neutral spine, and the deep core naturally enlivens to support your spine. Aloha, Diana, what a treat. So good to see you. And then find stillness and try to maintain your neutral pelvis, neutral spine as you breathe fully. And then in my experience, because there's just that subtle core engagement when I breathe, there's a pressure where the breath meets the core muscles that are lightly engaging, and just notice that pressure. And then we're going to add some movements that are going to make it more challenging to maintain this neutral. Let neutral be the goal, and back up at any time if the pelvis tilts forward and the low back arches. So use your exhale to lift one shin parallel to the earth, and inhale the other one up, and then exhale, step each foot down. So this is our first progression, 1 foot at a time. Slower is stronger. If it's too much to lift both feet, you can just lift one and then place it back down and lift the other. And if you feel like you're working really hard, see if you can relax and use that pressurized breath, the breath drawing into the core to create a stability in the pelvis. And then let's lower the soles of both feet back to where they came from. We'll take 1 moment to relax completely. Bring the soles of the feet together. Let the knees very slowly open like a butterfly, but resist the urge to just drop the knees out, and try to feel how the adductors, the deep thigh muscles, are supporting the legs here. You might even feel how the adductors integrate into the pelvic floor and into the deep core up the spine. Try lengthening through the back of the neck a little bit extra. If it feels inviting, one hand can come to the belly, one hand can come to the heart. Try squeezing the feet together ever so gently and notice what that ignites. You might feel the knees float a little bit. See if you can lengthen the low back out. There's a tendency for it to overarch here. And then soles of the feet back to the floor. We're going to learn a little bit about the front line here. So tuck the knees into the chest. Wrap the fingers around the shins. Use your exhale to slowly curl up, bringing the belly to the thighs. And then inhale to release back down. Do this again. The next time you exhale, flex the feet. Here we're shortening the whole front line of the body. You can take a couple of pulses here so the front line goes up from the tops of the feet through the shins, quads, to rectus, abdominis, all the way up sternocleidomastoid in the front of the neck up to the underside of the ears. And when we do a back bend, we want to integrate, just like you are right now, this crunching upward. Keep that strength. This time lower the feet down, reach the hands toward the heels, keeping the whole front line integrated. Slowly reach the knees forward and notice how that same pathway can lengthen while staying strong. Let's take a couple of pulses like that. So when you curl up, notice that whole front side of the body shortening. That can be an exhale. And then place the soles of the feet down, and without losing that sense of connection, reach the knees forward and try to feel the whole front of the body lengthening while still staying strong. Take a couple of pulses like that, and if you want to stay in either of those shapes, you're more than welcome to. Just for fun, try reversing the breath. So you inhale up into the curl and you exhale into bridge. This is actually my favorite way to do it, and just notice how that changes your support system. And the next time you're in bridge, pause there. Start to sway the hips from side to side. Let them lower a little bit so you're not in your highest bridge, and notice as the hips sway from side to side the sensation between the shoulder blades. Let this give your upper back a little massage. Anchor the big toes so that the feet and the legs are nice and stable. Try tucking the chin so there's a little bit more space through the back of the neck. If it feels good, you can make some big lateral circles with the pelvis. That's the same way as if you were hula hooping right now. And notice how the lateral circles change the way that the rib cage interacts with the shoulder girdle. You might feel little extra pressure on one shoulder blade than the other, and then up underneath the collarbones. If you find a sticky spot or a knot, you can always stay there and take a couple of breaths to massage from the inside out. And then come back to center, release the pelvis down, reach the legs out, and let the arms float overhead. Big stretch. Take a couple of breaths here and then soften. I like to bend my elbows here so the arms relax. Can point the toes or relax the feet. Take one moment in this mini outstretched Shavasana and just try to forget everything you know. A good way to do that is to just feel your breath, feel the air around you. Gently smile through the face and notice how that feels inside your heart. And then staying in this position, play with those pelvic tilts from before. So that's the gentle forward rock and backward rock. And see if you can find neutral here. And my experience is that it's actually harder because when the legs are stretching out, the femurs are pulling the pelvis down. And so it takes more core strength to rock the pelvis back into a neutral position. So if it's hard, you can always bend the knees, place soles of the feet back to the floor. That's totally fine. In either of those positions, pause and breathe and see if you can feel that pressurized breath that I described before, where the core is gently toned, and so the breath just pushes into that strength from the inside. So the core gets stronger, but then the breathing muscles get stronger as well, namely the diaphragm. If you're following along with the playlist, you're welcome to hit play on the first track. All right, let's walk the feet in. Curl up one last time. This time, tuck the fingertips behind the thighs. Start to rock and roll forward and back. If that's not comfortable, just come all the way up to seated. But if that feels good, take a few rocks massaging the spine. We're out here on the deck. It's a little uneven, so you might get some bonus massage if there's a floorboard right along your spine. And then let's all meet up at seated. Take one moment to pull on the legs, just gently lengthening through the spine and sway from side to side, making sure there's no gripping, there's no tension. Check in with the neck here. Look left and right and make sure there's softness and spaciousness on the sides of the neck. And then we'll wake up the hands. So place the hands behind you, bend into one elbow at a time. Let the hands be really soft. Start to feel into the wrists. Roll a little extra weight onto the pinky side of the hands. Try changing the directions of the hands to wake up the hands and wrists and forearms from all different angles. And in Urdhva Dhanurasana, the arms externally rotate a lot. It's quite a deep hip shoulder flexion position, so that's part of the challenge. It takes a lot of flexibility, but also a lot of strength. Start to notice external rotation in the arms, so that's when the fingers are starting to point away from you. And just breathe into the front of the shoulders. Notice how that feels. Make sure there's no pinching. Be soft and delicate here. And then we'll start to draw some circles with the rib cage. So as the rib cage circles back, bend the elbows. And then as the rib cage circles forward, let the elbows extend. You'll feel a little weight shifting through the hands, and try to make this as gentle and subtle as possible. Almost as if the body had no bones and you were just slowly squishing from one side to the other. And then reverse your circles. Cross the right ankle over the left. Place the left hand behind you. Push down into the left hand, reach the right arm high, let the knees swivel down, flipping to tabletop. Grab your blanket. Actually, grab everything. So bring the blocks over to the side and the strap over to the side just so they're ready in a moment. And then blanket underneath the knees. And this is just for cushioning, so if you're on a carpeted floor, you might not need it. As long as we're transitioning, feel free to grab a sip of water. Do you need any water, Shira? Okay. And let's place the blocks in front of us so they're ready. And I guess actually just walk them in underneath the shoulders. They're ready. So from this elevated tabletop, take a moment to rock the pelvis forward and back, just like we were practicing. Try to find that neutral space. It's harder with the shoulders higher than the pelvis. So you can even close the eyes and see if that helps build awareness of what's happening in the pelvis and the low back. I can cheat because I'm on the screen here. I do recommend doing this in front of a mirror so you can see what's actually happening in the future, not right now. And then bring your blocks to the highest height and slowly start to glide the right foot back without anything moving and shifting. The hands can be anywhere that's comfortable on the blocks. If you have sensitive wrists, fingertips off to the side can take the wrists out of flexion, which feels really nice. Bring the knee in and switch sides. And then if this is going well, as one leg slides back, the opposite arm can float, and try to do that without arching the low back, which even if you've done this a million times, actually takes a lot of strength. You can alternate from side to side. And then bring both hands to the blocks, both legs down, push down into the blocks, round into cat. Favor the low back here. So the low back rounds, the tailbone drops. And then start to press the pelvis forward, rolling up one vertebra at a time. Big circle with the arms at the top so the front of the body opens. And then I want to play with the movements that we were doing on our back, where we were crunching to shorten the front of the body. And so hands come down, round. Here's our crunch, right? So start to feel how the whole front of the body shortens and condenses. And then as you shift the hips forward, the front line stays connected, but it starts to elongate. Try to feel a sense of strength through the front of the body. If you want to connect the breath here, let's try to inhale as we round into cat and exhale forward and up. The reason I like to exhale here is because the diaphragm lifts on the exhale and that pulls on the psoas. And if you get tired, you can take a break, but I just want to walk around for a moment. Okay, I know you're having trouble with leveling the pelvis here, so let's do it together. So round and feel this suck in. Okay, and then push the pelvis forward. Forward. Yeah. Slowly let that roll up. So, there's like a disconnect. Let's try it again. So imagine you're doing a crunch. Let the whole front of your body shorten. Can you feel that? Yeah. Okay, now keep that and really, really slowly send the hips forward. Yes, there it is. Do you feel the difference? Yes, you got it. Yes. Hopefully those cues were helpful to everyone. We all need help with that action. It's hard. So the next time you roll up, pause there. Going to do my favorite movement ever. You can probably guess what it is if you have been in a training with me. Bring hands to the front of the hips, knees, hips, and shoulders in one straight line, and start to bend the knees so that you rock back without tilting anything. You'll know you're doing it right if you feel a deep core strengthening. Sync it with the breath so the exhale rocks you back. Take a few pulses here. See if you can start to notice the quads, the front of the thighs, strengthening here. As we play in our back bends, honestly, I would much rather you feel this action be very strong and supported than even worry about any extension. So this sense of strength comes first, And then maybe in the future, not right now, we play with extension. The next time you come forward, pause there, bring the left foot outside of the blocks, and we're going to do a very similar action, but we'll add on. So hands to the blocks, round forward in that same cat, press the hips forward, grab onto the block with the left hand as you slowly roll up. Circle the left hand up and back, place the hand behind you, and let the whole right side of the body open. Try to push the right knee down. See if you can feel the right psoas, that deep hip flexor supporting you. And then we'll reverse that. So bend the left elbow, push into the left arm to spring forward, plant the hands back down in front of you. Tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, send the hips back any amount. And we're just going to pulse between those two shapes. So the knee lowers, hold the block, slowly roll up, big circle with the left arm, plant the block, and if that's too much, just keep the hand lifted and stretch through the right side, or plant the block. Make sure you can breathe, make sure the low back feels spacious, and then when you're ready, you bounce through that left arm to reverse and lift the back knee. Take a few pulses here, moving slowly with the breath. It doesn't matter which action goes with each breath, so just do what feels natural to you. Imagine you're like a sparkler and you can see the whole track of where you've been all at once. Wow, everyone is moving so well. If you need a break at any time, you can pause in any of those movements or just come back to neutral. The next time the hands are on the blocks and you're in the lunge, let's meet there. So nice. Bring the left knee back, lower the blocks to their lowest height. Two options here. If you're ready for a rest, press your hips back, bring your elbows onto the blocks to start to open through the triceps, and just stay here and breathe. The other option will be adding a baby chaturanga, just like Arati taught in her final teaching last week. And then we'll go into the same tricep position. So from Bhaktasana, press down into the shins, slowly roll forward. Once the shoulders make it over the wrists, bend the elbows, squeezing the elbows into the side body, kind of like a push-up, and then just press into the hands to send the hips back to Bhaktasana. If it felt good to create that pressurized system in the arms, you can take a few of these baby chaturangas. You're welcome to head into that tricep stretch. And so just take a moment to explore and make sure what you're choosing isn't creating tension. Might be creating strength, but no tension. If you're not sure, the next time the elbows bend, look left and right and make sure the neck feels completely disconnected from the shoulders, like none of the muscles in the neck are supporting you there. All right, and I've got a bunch of go-getters in the house, so mandatory rest now. Option go-getters, if you need to feel like you're doing something extra, you can lift your blocks to a higher height to open the triceps more. And let's all bring the hands together and lift the fingertips towards the sky to increase that sensation if it feels good. Make sure there's no pressure in the joint, just a sense of spaciousness. And then press down into the shins, bring the hands to the blocks, slowly come up to that high table, lift the blocks to their highest height, and take a couple of cat-cows, dragging the hands back as the back arches, pushing the hands forward as the back rounds. The next time the back rounds, send the hips forward, slowly roll up, and Actually, let's add on. We'll take one of these rock backs just because they're so good, and I really want you to feel how the core is crossing the deep part of the pelvis into the thighs, and you feel totally integrated from upper body into lower body. That's essential to do back bends well. The next time you come forward, bring your hands to the blocks, round the spine just like we practiced. Send the hips forward, but this time as you roll up, big circle with the arm. The right arm circles forward, up, and back. And then come back to the blocks, do a cat-cow, and then go the other way. And as you play here, very similar to what we did in the lunge, and don't worry, we'll do the other side in a moment. Start to notice how the opposite hip relates to the circling arm. So as the arm reaches, you get extra space through the psoas of that opposite hip. The next time the hands come, actually the next time you come up, step the right foot out, side of the blocks. Bring your hands to the blocks. You can take a couple of cat-cows here and just make sure the front of the right hip feels spacious as the pelvis tilts. The next time the spine rounds, press down into the legs, press down into the hands. Take the right block with you as you slowly roll up, big circle, right hand up and back. For this first round, keep the block elevated and just lengthen through the whole left side, feeling how strong your back bend can be here. And then reverse it. And as the hands come to the blocks, tuck the back toe, lift the back knee, send the hips back. If you want extra time here, you can always sway the hips a little bit, make sure the spine is long, breathe through the whole back side of the body. Maybe even notice how the front side of the body is interacting with the back side. And then when you're ready for another round, back knee lowers, slowly roll up, take the block with you. Keep it elevated, that's really strengthening. If it feels accessible, the block can lower. Push the left knee down, let the whole left side of the body open. For extra prep for wheel, you can externally rotate that lifted hand, or that bottom hand, push down into the arm and let that shoulder open, just noticing what that feels like. And then let's take a few repetitions on our own and notice if your body is enjoying one of those movements more. Maybe that means you need the opposite one. Isn't it funny how it works like that? And just try to play and explore and feel that sparkler sensation of not just being in a single place, but feeling the whole pathway come alive all at once. Wow, this is so pretty. I want to take a picture of everyone. All right, the next time the hands are forward on the blocks, step back into plank. Option to lower the knees. If you feel stable here, you can play with changing the level of the blocks. It's kind of like a fun core strengthening challenge. So knees up or down. You can take that tricep resting pose that we did before. And then with the blocks at the lowest height, let's all lower the knees. Press back to Bhaktasana. We'll take one of those chaturanga prep poses, and then you'll have the option to build on if you want to. So from knees down plank, bend the elbows, squeezing them into the side body, and then push back to Bhaktasana. So the strength happens on the pushing back. It's not about lowering all the way to the ground. The next time you roll forward, we'll do it the same way, but you'll have the option to push back to down dog. So bend the elbows, lowering halfway. Tuck the toes under. As you push back, lift the hips up and back. If that felt good, option to roll forward and keep the knees elevated as you try that same thing. More is not better. So just try to listen to where your body is and what it's craving. And then let's all lower the knees and move the blocks out of the way. And come all the way down onto the belly. And the blanket's sort of nice here just because it feels good underneath the belly. I scooted mine up so it's right underneath my chest towards my mid-thighs. Stack the hands, elbows wide, bring the forehead to the hands. And just relax and breathe for a moment. Notice any sense of warmth. If it feels good, you can gently roll the head from side to side, massaging the third eye. Extend the left arm out to the side like a Y. Bring the right hand underneath the right shoulder, lower the left ear down, lift the right leg, and slowly cross the right leg up and back. Push the left arm down and notice a sense of strength through the arm, through the pec, all the way across the core into the front of the right hip. Take a breath. And then roll through center, extend the right arm, and we're going to go from side to side. So press down into the right arm. Both arms can stay at Y now. The most important thing, and you can move at your own pace as I talk here, is to feel the downward pressure of the bottom arm and notice how that prevents the top leg from overstretching. You don't want to feel any compression in the low back here. That's a really common pattern of imbalance that we have in back bends. So instead, we want to feel really integrated. We almost want to restrict our movement so that we feel how we're connected and not how we're separated, which is a lovely metaphor. And then come back to center, forehead to hands, and just rest and notice any warmth through the front side of the body, through the chest. Breathe into the front of the heart and feel a sense of spaciousness. And then breathe into the back of the heart as well. Place the hands underneath the shoulders. Keep the knees down. Press up to a half plank. Grab your blocks. Place them underneath the hands at the highest height. And then we're slowly going to come into a forward fold. So however this is most comfortable for you, lifting the legs, bending the knees deeply. And just like we've played with in other, oh nice, you can add a little hop. You can take a couple of cat-cows here, just like we have in a few different positions. And try to avoid any compression in the low back. So it might mean you don't drop as low in that cow, but instead you feel a sense of support in the front of the body. The next time you round into cat, press the feet down, press the hands down, and feel how the front of the body is rising up to support the front side of the spine. And then keep all of that support, bend the knees a little bit extra, and then keep your hands where they are, but drag them back and wide as you lengthen into cow, and feel how that support system lengthens as it stays strong. Press into cat. You can flex the feet a little extra and notice that energy rising up the front of the ankles. This time, press the hips forward and roll up one vertebra at a time, feeling that support on the front of the spine. If it feels good, big circle with the arms at the top. And then let's repeat that. Bend the knees, dramatically drape your body over the thighs. Option for hands on the block if you like that. Round into your cat pose, and then press the hips forward. Let the spine stack and feel the whole front of the body open. The hips can press forward as long as there's no compression in the low back. So it's kind of like a standing cat-cow. You round, roll up, and then arch at the top. And you can sync this with your breath. I always like backwards breathing here, so that's the inhale on the forward fold and the exhale on the back bend. There's just a really nice sense of integration. And the next time you're folded forward, move your blocks out of the way. Move your blanket out of the way. and grab your strap. See, folding forward is a very functional movement that we need to do everyday tasks. You can come up to standing and wear your strap like a scarf. Feel free to go to the next musical track. And I'm feeling the need to walk around a little bit. So if your space allows, just go for, our strap is so long, both ends are on the ground. That's sort of crazy. So I'm going to fold my strap in half again before I walk. So walk around your space a little bit. And let the arms swing. And just notice how the arms feel in the shoulder socket. You can pet the dog or cat or whoever you have around. Try pressing off a little extra, pressing the toe into the floor, and just notice if you get a little springier, a little swingier. See if you can notice the sensation where the legs meet the pelvis. We've done a lot of psoas work. When I do a lot of psoas work, I notice that my steps become longer, which really says a lot because I have literally the shortest legs in the universe. It's okay if you bump into someone. It just means you love them and you're magnetized to them. Just no stepping on the dog. Or you can step on her like that, just not with weight. You can pet her with your feet. That's totally different. And can make your way back to your mat unless you're petting a dog, and just keep doing that important seva. Feel free to grab a sip of water. Okay, I want to demo Nataraja before you do it so that you can really focus on your neck and not be trying to see me. So I'll turn to the side because it will be the most dramatic view. We'll use our amazing long straps, so no loop because we want to have one hand for each side of the strap. We'll do something fun here, but I don't need to talk you through that. You'll bend the knee, and then here's the tricky part. The hands reach overhead so that, I'll give you a 360. So there's we might have to add that into the sequence. So there's a strap in each hand, and it's looped around either the top of your foot or your ankle. And then I'll talk you through all of this, but what I want you to see is this is wheel pose, right? If I was flipped on the ground, my hands were on the floor and my foot was on the floor, my whole front of my body is outstretching quite a lot. The difference is I don't have as much weight in my shoulders. I'm not supporting my whole body yet, though kicking my foot into the strap is starting to give my arms a way to work here. So some of us have the strength, but not the flexibility for wheel. Some of us have the flexibility, but not the strength. So this is a really fun way to see if you even have the mobility to get into the pose later on, plus all the benefits of balancing. So I'll talk you through this in a moment. Just make sure no pressure in the low back. It's not about dropping forward. It's actually about staying upright. And then if you want more, the hands walk down the strap, and you're allowed to go deeper as long as you don't feel it here. Instead, you want to feel it here. That means you're targeting the right area. So I'll talk you through it. Let's start with the right foot. And so you can step on the strap, and we're not going into it right away. So first, just place the ball of the foot on the strap. Hopefully you have long enough straps that you can reach it. Anchor the ball of the foot down and gently pull on the strap, and notice how the shoulder girdle can just land on the rib cage. You don't want to arch here, right? You want to stay neutral. So take a moment for those pelvic tilts that we've been practicing. Pelvis rocks forward, pelvis rocks back. When you find neutral, start to breathe, letting the rib cage rise up into the shoulder girdle. Check in with the neck, look left and right. Make sure there's no tension or tightness there. Bend the elbows a little bit. Notice any sense of warmth rising up that right foot, bless you. into the core, into the arms, into the shoulders. See if you can use the breath to get a little taller. Not in one place, but through the whole body all at once. You can stay here as long as you want. I'm going to say this now because I have a feeling I'm going to keep you in Natarajasana for a long time. Please come out at any time and just return to this. It's really stabilizing. Or you can shimmy forward to your chair and take a rest with the hands down. So if I'm keeping you there too long, just take one of those options without me telling you to do so. So next step, find a drishti, steady gaze point, shift the weight into the left foot, bend the right knee, take the foot behind you, and then lift the straps overhead. It's okay that they're going to cross. It's not going to mess with the foot at all. And then try to find your neutral pelvis, right? So if you're noticing that your pelvis is rocking forward here, let the tailbone get heavy. You might already feel a sense of stretch in the front of the right hip, and that's great. That's what we're going to increase. We're not going to increase any sensation in the low back, okay? Take a couple of breaths here. Squeeze the elbows together. And just make sure there's no tension building in the shoulders. At any time, if this is too much, bring the straps over the shoulder like you're carrying a sack of potatoes, and that will take your shoulders out of the equation. If this is feeling good and you want a little bit more here, bend the left knee, make sure you're springy, anchor the left big toe, that's going to help you stabilize, and then bring the right knee a little more behind you, but check in with the pelvis. If it rocked forward and you feel compression in the low back, you have to work on the core here. That might mean dropping the knee a little bit, it might mean taking some pelvic tilts. If you feel that left hip warming, that's glute med stabilizing you, that's awesome. That means you're doing it right. If you want more, the hands can walk down the strap, but just make sure you feel boingy, boingy, springy, bouncy, supported. If you want to make sure you're boingy, come out of it a little bit, and you can do my made-up thing from before. I don't recommend that for everyone, but maybe it is for you. It keeps you honest. And then let's all release that leg down. You can just drop the strap and do a little like horse trot towards your chair, or arrange your chair if you need it, or go grab a chair if you don't have one. Bring your hands to the chair. I just wanted this to be super chill, so that's why we're using a chair, but the chair also will come in handy later. Press evenly through both feet and just let the hips sway. Press a little extra into the hands. Try to drag the hands forward, and notice how that squeezes the pecs all the way down into rectus abdominis, your crunch muscle. See if that can help you provide a little more support in the front of the spine. See what happens when you flex the front foot. There you're shortening the whole front line of the body. I notice when I do that, automatically I have more space to round forward. And that's not the goal, it's just sort of fun to see how the front line works there. Release it down so you're not stretching the nerves. And then step the feet back so you're kind of in a makeshift plank pose. Stay here and take a couple of breaths. If you want to play with a down dog, press the hips back. If you want to play with an up dog, roll forward and let the heart reach between the hands. If you want to take a child's pose, you can lower the knees and let the triceps stretch. Just take a moment to play with having this chair as a prop, or do anything else that your creativity sparks. And we'll slowly make our way back up. Walk the feet in so you've got a lot of support. Grab your strap and then roll up or stand up or just come up somehow. All right, and we'll do the second side. Now that you know what's about to happen, you can skip anything, you can add anything, you can tune me out, or just stay right there with me. So ball of foot on the strap, and first just stabilize. So the left foot steps forward, pelvis is neutral here, back toes are out just a little tiny bit. Start to breathe, letting the rib cage rise up into the shoulder girdle. Try to feel space in the front of the chest, the front of the shoulders, but also the back of the heart as well. And that's going to indicate that you're in a neutral position rather than a back bend. Check in with the low back here. See if you can breathe down into the low back. See if you can find that core support we've been waking up as you rock the pelvis forward and back, eventually finding that neutral that takes strength to support. And then when you're ready for Natarajasana, shift the weight into the right foot, find your drishti, bend your knee, place the foot behind you, lift the straps overhead, let them cross, walk them down any amount or sling them over your shoulder, especially if the shoulders feel really tired. That's totally fine. Number one priority here is neutral pelvis, and then let the extension come from the knee drawing back. Notice how that creates space in the front of the hip. The low back should stay completely long. Make sure you're bouncy in the right knee. Keep the right big toe anchored. Play with what happens when you flex the left foot, just like we've played with in a few different poses. Maybe you can feel how that strength rises up the left ankle, left quad, all the way up into the neck. We haven't talked a lot about the neck yet. You can tuck the chin a little bit. Try reaching the crown of the head up and back and see if you can feel how that action is related to the core. If you did the crazy bouncy around in a circle thing and you liked it, feel free to get crazy, but only if it feels useful. If you're smiling, you're doing it right. If the right hip is getting warm without pain, you're doing it right. And no rush, but whenever you feel ready, you can swing the leg forward, drop the strap. Favorite part of my class, not planned at all, is the horse trot to the chair. However you want to make it to the chair. And let this be really soothing. Imagine your spine is growing like a foot longer as you sway your hips from side to side. You're just decompressing. Breathe anywhere that feels like it needs a little extra attention. Check in with the knees. Make sure they're soft and springy. I actually prefer doing poses on a chair because I can find so much more suppleness. And then same options as before. You can step back into a plank, send the hips back into a down dog. You can roll forward into an up dog, or you can lower your knees into a Bhaktasana. If it doesn't feel good to have the arms up, you can always lower them to the ground or to blocks. Feel free to play with a few options. Kirtan is using the recycling bin. Very resourceful of you. Okay, we're ready. We're ready for Urdhva Dhanurasana. I'm going to demo. If you want a little something while you watch, you can tuck toes under for a foot stretch, or you can add in a nice tricep stretch, but you're not like pulling your arm, you're just letting the weight of the hand gently let this open. So we're first going to do something that everybody can do, and it's going to feel really good, and you might just keep doing it the whole time, and that's wonderful. We're going to play with integrating the front of the body, just like we've been practicing, right? The whole front line shortens, and then we keep the front line toned as we slowly lengthen it, and we end up rolling all the way back, walking the feet in, and just starting with a bridge pose. And so for you, the exploration might continue to just look like that, where it's the shortening of the front of the body, legs might extend, they might bend, and then letting the front of the body lengthen in bridge. If you want to continue further, we've got a couple of different options. So for wheel, the hands traditionally plant beside the ears. This takes really flexible wrists, so that might not feel good for your wrist, and that's why we have the option for a chair. The chair in some ways is easier because you don't have to have flexible wrists. You just place your hands around the chair, but it does take a lot of strength. So it'll be up to you to see what feels best for you. The key is that you're pushing the hands straight down. If you push the hands back, the chair is going to slide. That's scary. That's terrible. You don't want to do that. But if you push the hands down, the chair is not going to go anywhere. So with the hands pushing down, you can play with lifting the body. And for the first one, you just come down right away so you can check in with the low back and make sure you didn't max anything out. You might have noticed a little swaying happening. That's how I'm checking in and making sure I'm not just like cranking into my low back. Just like our bouncy dancer pose, if you're supple, like if you can bend the elbows and the knees, move around, then you haven't pushed too far. One rule here, just like with handstands, after you do one, I actually broke the rule, sorry, that was a bad example. You come up right away, you integrate, you check in, and then if the body is craving another round, you can go for it. And then you come back down and you go into the counter pose. So we have a lot of options. There are so many benefits to staying in bridge pose. So don't feel bad if you're like, I have no desire to try wheel. It's not the goal. If you're staying in bridge pose, you might want to use the chair to add a little something fun where you roll forward, you go into your bridge pose, and then you can like rest the legs up here. So now it's your play time. I'll talk you into the forward fold because there are some moving parts, and I'll keep giving cues, but just go into whatever is feeling most useful to you. So for this first round, we'll all do the bridge pose, and then you can start to layer on as your body feels ready. So from Paschimottanasana, you can sit up tall, bend the knees so the spine is long here, sway from side to side, dig the heels down a little bit so you feel engagement through the back line of the body, and then start to relax forward. Breathe through the back line. Slowly kick into the heels to roll up one vertebra at a time. Let the arms open. And then drag the heels back and notice how the whole spine arches. Start to spill the pelvis forward, rounding over the legs. And then kick into the legs to roll up one vertebra at a time. Front of the body opens, heels drag back. Let the heels dragging back tip the pelvis forward, and then kick into the heels to tip the pelvis back. So that's really the main action. The heels drag to tip forward, the heels kick to tip back, and the spine just follows, and the arms just follow. If you're enjoying this, just keep doing this. This is so great for your core. It's really great for releasing tension in the low back, in the neck, in the shoulders. If you want to play with a back bend, the next time you roll forward, feel the front of the body condense. Try to feel that connection as you slowly roll up. That connection is maintained, it's just lengthening. And then slowly roll all the way back. First round of our bridge pose. Whole front of the body is connected. Just reach the knees forward, letting that front space open. If this feels good and you want to go for the deeper back bend, you can either place the hands beside the face, palms or fingertips away from you, elbows straight up, or grab the bottom of the chair. Make sure you're breathing. Start to press down to lengthen up, and then come out right away for the first round, just so you can check in, just so you can assess If you feel any kinks anywhere, any tightness, it means maybe stick to the other option. I can help with the chair. Shira, did you want to try using the chair? Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, totally. I saw it move, and I just wanted to make sure that. Are you okay? Okay. And then just remember that moment where we come up, roll forward. That looks so nice and integrated. And maybe your body is craving something different. Please give your body that space. Nice. Did it feel okay? Cute. Got two bridges looking at each other. Nice.
Is it okay that I put my shoulders down first?
Let me see what you mean.
Like I lift my hips and then my shoulders, and then I put like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that looked great.
It felt good.
And well, that's the barometer. If it feels good, then it is good. Trust. Nice. So you can take one or two more rounds. If you've had enough, you can head into Paschimottanasana and just breathe a little extra. Woo! Nice. Satyam, can you go to Inner Sanctum? All right. Nice, Prem. That looks really spacious through the chest. Oh, one cue I forgot to give, and if you're done, don't do anymore, but it's really nice to tuck your chin as you come up, and then when you're in it, then you can start to lengthen, and it just creates a little more space in the shoulders. So I'm sorry I didn't have people explore that. Okay, that's enough. Sasufi, don't overdo it. So let's all meet in Paschimottanasana, or let's meet in Dandasana, just upright. A lot of forward and back, so let ourselves just be in neutral. And then bring the sole of the left foot in. Bring right hand across the body, left hand behind you, and just ever so gently press the pelvis down. Let the spine get tall. Breathe into the low back. And if this feels crunchy or compressed anywhere in the spine, come forward and do another forward fold, and then slowly roll up and take the twist, just making sure everything decompressed after your back bend. Actually, that felt really nice, so you can play with that sequence, rolling forward right into the twist. I love this modification of Urdhva Dhanurasana. That just gives you a lot more space. And the next time you're in the twist, let the shoulders melt down the back, and ever so gently swim the skull from side to side, just letting the neck be soft and fluid. And if the rest of the body follows, let it. And then bring the sole of the left foot in, bend the right knee, and let's just take one last forward fold. And actually that doesn't feel good to me, so I'm going to point my knee wider. I just prefer a wider base for Janu Shirshasana, so feel free to try that. And then press the right heel down, slowly rise up. We'll go to the other side, so left leg extends, sole of right foot comes in, and we'll start with that forward fold because it felt so nice. So just a little release forward, doesn't have to be deep, and then kick into the feet to slowly rise up and twist away from me. You can stay in the twist, or you can play with a little pulse there, and give yourself permission to walk the right foot around until you find a place that's really spacious and supportive. Think of this as therapy for your low back, so everything should feel really sweet and nourishing. And if you want to pause in any of those movements, you can. The next time you twist, you're welcome to stay there, take a couple of extra breaths, and just let the neck be really soft and wiggly, almost as if your head was helium and you're just letting the head float and the neck elongate. And then slowly untwist, bring the right heel in, let the knee open as much as feels good, like we did on the first side. I'll go 3/4 so you can see. And then bend the left knee and slowly drape the body forward. Breathe through the length of the spine. And notice, because we've paid so much attention to the front of the body, notice any sense of compression through the front of the body. Notice how the front line is supporting the spine here. So you have a lot of elongation, but it feels really even. And then you can slowly roll up, pause the music if it's still playing. I recommend, I know not everyone has a chair, but we have benches, we have piano stools, recycling bins, finding something that would allow you to elevate the legs. I'll demonstrate in one moment. Have a blanket nearby, and we'll fold it just to the lowest fold. The pelvis is going to come onto the blanket. Because we have a strap, it is really nice here, if it's not too annoying, to make a loop with the strap. It's going to hold our legs together, and we're going to get a little bit more nourishment from our restorative pose. And so the loop has to be big enough to go around both of your thighs. And so you can slide the strap up the legs and then maybe tighten it or loosen it as is necessary. Before we recline, feel free to put on a warm layer, grab a sip of water, do any of those nice things. And then bring the hips onto the blanket and swing the legs up. I do recommend having a bend in the knees, depending on what your item is, and having some cushioning behind the legs is nice if that's possible. And then just make sure the strap is tight enough that the legs can completely relax and feel supported by the strap. And then gently point the tailbone from left to right, just getting a little bit of lateral flexion in the low back, almost as if you were smearing your sacrum on the blanket beneath you. Tuck the chin a little bit. Let the hands point wherever's most comfortable for the shoulders. For me, it's a low V. Let the elbows be soft. And then eventually let the body start to get still and heavy. Close the mouth. Let the tongue rest on the roof of the mouth. Let the breath start to come to the forefront of your awareness. And we did a lot of work with the rib cage. And so just notice if the breath feels different, if it feels full, if it feels spacious. Just observe. And then as you let yourself relax, see if you can keep awareness of the breath. There is a magic that happens when we relax deeply while staying conscious. And imagine that each inhale is bringing nourishment, and then each exhale is helping you soften and release all tension. And we have 10 more minutes to rest, and so you can stay here the whole time. At any time, if you would like to shift away from the chair and take Shavasana, you're more than welcome to do that as well. In 5 minutes, I'll ring the Tingsha bells just so that you know that there's 5 more minutes in case there's any shifting you want to do. And so now you can just let yourself relax and be nourished by the energy that you've cultivated in this practice. Give yourself the opportunity to observe your breath. Notice how easy it is to be in this witness state as you come out of Shavasana. Notice how smooth and natural your breath is. And then imagine breathing down to the tips of the fingers, the tips of the toes. And let that consciousness help wake the whole body up. You can make any gentle exploratory movements. Take your time. And just imagine the consciousness of your breath infusing all of your cells. And if it feels good, you can stretch, you can hug your knees in, you can roll around a little bit, whatever helps you integrate your consciousness into your physical form. And then eventually we'll meet upright at seated, but you can enjoy the route there. And take some time setting up a comfortable meditation seat. We have just about 10 minutes. There are extra cushions up here, or feel free to use a chair. Does anybody need something that they don't have? And then once you've got the props you need, take your time making yourself as comfortable as possible. Oh, that's a better one. Maybe give that one. And something I notice in my body from working with the psoas and consciously opening the front of my body, now in a seated position, I feel so much more supported. Even though I'm not extending my spine and the hips are actually flexed, that muscular pathway is charged and ready to be a support system. And so just notice if the spine feels light. And then you can close the eyes or find a steady gaze point. And let the breath start to draw into the heart center. And notice any lightness that the breath brings to the heart. And with each exhale, see if you can rest more deeply in the heart center. Notice how the breath is simultaneously energizing and relaxing. A deeper layer beyond the breath is the mind. You may notice your thoughts, but a space around them. They don't completely take over. And just see, just like the breath allowed the heart to become light and spacious, if you can feel that lightness and spaciousness in the mind, letting everything soften and release. And we'll attach a mantra to the breath to help achieve this and take us even deeper inside. And so our lineage mantra is Om Namah Shivaya. And with each breath into the heart center, you can silently repeat the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. And then the same thing on the exhale. Om Namah Shivaya. Let the mantra be just as gentle and natural as the breath. And this mantra has the potential to take you beyond the physical layer, beyond the breath, beyond the mind, into the bliss of the inner self. And so each time you repeat it, try to feel that wish to experience the inner self. Try to feel the trust that it's possible, and the mantra has that power. And let each breath and each repetition of the mantra help you open to that possibility or even experience it for yourself. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste. Great to be here with you all. I hope You feel better in body, mind, and spirit.